Hello and welcome back to another edition of What's Moving in the Forex Market, brought to you by myself, Kurt Capra, and T3 Live. As always, please keep in mind that all comments are for educational purposes only and should not be construed as investment advice. And with that now out of the way, let's take a look and see what's going on. So, want to follow up on this US dollar, Canadian dollar, and done some prior videos on it, so you can always go back and take a look at those previous videos to see kind of what the thoughts were at that time. And I mean, more or less, we're still in the same kind of grind that I discussed. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever the case is. I was basically talking about how this pair has been just really grinding its way higher. You got this trend line here or thereabouts that it's following so far, and at the same time, if you draw this horizontal line that was these highs, we actually poked above the top of that range last week, the week before last, and since then have pulled back in. And what's interesting is we basically continue to see this tightening that's taking place. And in the previous videos, I said, I expect that this will resolve itself to the upside, and I'll show you why based on larger time frames I feel that way. But you can clearly see that you've got this contraction in volatility, and higher highs and higher lows continue to form here. This breakout over the top of the range was important, and we'll see this week if we get the follow through that I've kind of been expecting for some time now. So let me take you to the weekly, and we'll take kind of a step back, a little bit of a longer term approach or view, kind of a bird's eye view, if you will, and it'll give us a little more clarity. So here you can see, again, you still got the trend line and the resistance line there. And so last week, or what's now 2 weeks ago, we had the breakout, came on like a Thursday, and then we pulled back in the next day and resulted in this topping tail. Now, at that time, I was talking to some of our traders and saying, you know what, while this candle might look bearish just based on how it closed, just based on looking at that by itself, when you combine it with all of the other information that we have, when you consider the fact that we just broke out from coming off of a support line at a lower level, it makes sense that this is pulling back in. So what I would be expecting is some kind of reversal in the following week. And as you can see, that is exactly what happened. The next week, which was last week, closed with a bullish reversal, negating that prior message. So now the question is, can we get follow through here? And I firmly believe that we can, as I already have been explaining. And the next question would be, okay, well, where to? And looking at this move lower, I mean, this was a pretty deep retracement overall, so I think we could maybe go about 50% back up, say just using round numbers around the 37.13 level. So this 1.3713 area, I think, is a fair area to start looking for a move up to, which gives us some nice room for movement. But the question is, of course, can it get out of this range? And before I go back to the daily, let me just take an even further bird's eye view to the monthly. And you can see here the monthly, again, that's the sharp or deep retracement I was just talking about. And so for that reason, I don't necessarily think we're going all the way back up to the prior high. But at least, 50% back up is certainly reasonable. And hey, I mean, look, if it does go all the way back up, then even better. But I think the easy move, quote unquote easy move, would be back into around the 50% retracement area, and then we see where it goes from there. If there's still upside potential, well then sure, let's go with that. Let's take advantage of that. If not, well then we'll adjust as necessary based on our rules. But let's go back to the daily here for a moment, and I want to highlight for a second why I was expecting a pullback after breaking out. And this is something that I do teach in the Forex course that I offer. But in any case, we moved up from this trend line all the way up and broke out through the top of that range. So that tells me there was a lot of movement here. We used up a lot of upside energy to clear that area. So it only makes sense that we're likely going to get a pullback. And so there's your pullback. Then a lot of last week was spent just chopping around trying to stabilize, and then we had the NFP report. Boom, up we went, gave us that reversal on the weekly. So that's where things are at now. And if today and through the course of this week we can hold this area right in here and get some kind of bottoming tail and ultimately a break above this 3204 level, that's going to be the signal to get long. That's going to be the signal to start looking to position yourself for that move up towards those higher levels that we were just talking about. So that's really what I'm going to be looking for here in the coming days and even weeks, as this may take some time. But I just wanted to do a video and follow up on that, because so far, things are playing out as expected. And you might be thinking, or at least from the previous video, well, it broke out and then pulled right back in, so it's not doing what it should. And in fact, it is. There are other types of breakouts that we would look to play with the expectation that it does continue higher, but this just wasn't that overall scenario, that formation. So, as I said, so far so good. It's just following the storyline here with these higher highs and higher lows, but I am hoping that it will, if it can again clear this area, start to catch some momentum and start really looking a whole lot better and more decisive. So until next time, stay patient, stay disciplined, and stay confident, and I'll talk to you again soon.